You've seen the work we put in and day out, challenging myths, debunking old wives' tales, and exposing poor breeding practices. Ugh. We spent years researching, studying, and applying real-world experiences to perfect the art of science of breeding. Why? Because you deserve the best, most accurate information out there. But to keep this mission alive and growing, we need your support. If you found value in the Bred to Perfection live show, take a moment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our content. It may seem small, but every like, every subscriber, and every share helps us reach more breeders who need to hear the truth, who want to learn what it really takes to create, maintain, and improve high-quality strains. This isn't just a YouTube channel, it's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. If you believe in what we're doing, if you want to help others discover the power of true breeding, help push this channel to the top. Like, subscribe, and share. Together, we make a difference. Thank you for standing with us. Now, let's get to work. Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. This show is brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family or strain, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl. Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my wife Nancy, and this is the Monday edition. And you know what's so great about watching that pre-show slide for me is watching Nancy in the bottom screen doing her dancing as it's going. You know, that is so good.
I just
She's
thought I would
rocking out, man. I'm telling you.
cheer things up a little bit. No, actually, it's kind of bad because we have to get rid of that music and put in some new music.
Yeah.
Because that music is so old that it's got copyright issues or whatever. So we need to do a whole new advertisement part, all that good stuff.
Well, let me explain that a little bit more. Okay, since you brought it up, I wasn't going to bring that up, but it's not a big deal, really. I don't monetize this channel because I feel like it's the marketing arm of the Breeders' Academy. So I don't want to purposely set it up for advertisements. Now, if you don't have the, what's it called? The premium YouTube, what's it called?
Premium, I guess. Yeah.
I think it's premium. I'm not sure what it's called, but we have that. So whenever we watch YouTube channel videos, anybody's, we don't get advertisements. So so I don't know how many people do that, but it's well worth the money if you do, because you won't get the advertisements. But I don't want YouTube purposely putting advertisements in different places on my video. And if I can do anything that's going to slow that down or stop it, then I will. So I've never worried about monetizing this channel at all. I mean, we do good. The views are good. I could probably make money on it, but that's not where my money is. My money's on the Breeders' Academy. So, but anyways, I was using a particular, what do you call it? Where you get your music. I forgot what you call it.
I know the name of it, but I can't.
Royalty free. No.
Yeah,
royalty free music. And for the longest time, we've been using that company for years, and they have great music. But it became very difficult to put your video on YouTube and not want to give you, it's not really a copyright strike, but what they do is they say, because you're using someone's music, you can't monetize it, which I don't anyways. But if we ever did, then I'd have to go through all our videos and redo all the beginnings or anywhere there's music. So we got a new royalty-free source, and we're going to, as soon as we get the time, we're going to go in and change pretty much all the music to our intros and our advertisements and whatever else we're doing. And it's what we're using for another channel that Nancy's doing, which I'm helping her on, which is her little hobby she's doing. It's called Troy on the Move. And so whenever we go to parks or we go to events, Nancy's doing her little thing. And I'm basically her tech guy. I'm her photographer, and I might crack a joke here and there, but it's basically Nancy and Tawny's show. And so we've been putting all new music in there, and everything's going really well. So that's kind of where we're at there. A lot of changes to the Breeders' Academy, a lot of changes to Bred to Perfection. 2026, there's going to be a lot of different things going on. We have a whole bunch of things planned. Let's put it that way. And this extra show, this Monday edition, is one of them,
Yeah. We'll see how long we last before we just like poop out. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, the music was really nice to have, but like I said, it's kind of obsolete. And guys, it's funny because on my computer in the den, I don't have that option for premium YouTube. Yeah, right over there. And so when I watch YouTube episodes of, like, say, building a chateau, I watch stuff like that.
She watches the boring stuff.
No, it's not. It's motivating. It's like, what
Tawny
can I do
and I leave the room. We see those things going on, Tawny.
Yeah.
And I just, okay, let's go.
That's fine. Now I know how to get rid of them. No, but every few minutes, there goes another ad, and there goes another ad, and that money just was not worth it to us for you guys to have to go through that. So no matter if you have the premium YouTube pay, or, that you do a membership or whatever it's called, or you don't, you're not going to have ads.
I'm not saying that, Nancy. Actually, I'm not saying that. They're not going to have, can I say it?
Yeah.
Okay. They're not going to have ads because of something I did. So I'm not monetizing it in a way that puts ads in front of them. So I'm doing everything I can to either slow them down or stop them. I don't know for sure if YouTube still puts ads in front of them or not. That's something I'm gonna have to talk. Maybe even somebody in the comments can tell us. But there's nothing I can do about that. But what is it? Like $15 a month for that YouTube Premium, and we get no ads whatsoever. It's actually nice.
Yeah. It's not that much.
It's not that much at all.
You know, I've watched a few of our episodes on my computer, and there hasn't been any ads.
No,
so I think it's, you know, what you're doing is working.
Okay,
yeah,
maybe
so we would know that because mine doesn't have the ad-free thing. But yeah, so there you go.
I didn't think about that. Good.
Yeah,
okay. So if anybody
that.
sees ads, just know it's not because of us, because I'm not trying to make money on YouTube right now.
No.
Maybe
Right
someday,
now.
I don't know, but not right now. You know, that's the last thing I want them to be watching one of my master's class videos and an ad comes up in the middle. So
yeah.
If you see an ad in mine, like in the
or something.
if you see an ad in mine, like in the podcast, that's an ad I put on there to promote. I can't talk also, to promote the Breeders Academy. So, I mean, there's a couple companies that we're maybe for 2026 we're thinking about contacting. So, because we do believe in the products, and see if we can at least develop a year, an annual, or at least a 1-year contract with them, because we do believe that not only would that be nice revenue for that, but it's a product we really stand by, and we talk about these products all the time as it is. So it would be nothing to promote it even more, you know.
Right. Whatever is beneficial to you guys. I mean, we're always considering that. It's got to be beneficial to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome all the new members. I really appreciate it. They're coming in. I love it. And make sure you start with the Start Here pages. There's no deadlines. Take your time. There's no catching up. Get to know the website. And I appreciate, we've got quite a few returning members too. And there's a couple more getting ready to return as well. And like I said, I really do appreciate that. If you want to join, just go to the Breeders Academy. No, let's see. Move something around. Hold on a second. If you want to join the Breeders Academy, let me start over, because this is part of our podcast and this all gets weeded out. Okay. Join us at the Breeders Academy. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. Once you join, you're going to have instant access to the website. You also have access to the Founders Program, the Masters Class videos, all the programs and courses. You'll have access to the complete collection of podcasts and live shows and all the daily articles. You're going to have expert advice from Brian Reeder, Peter Brown, Dr. Gallardo, and I do coaching calls with the members. So for you members that are new, get to know the website, take your time, but start writing down questions you might have for me, and we'll get together and do coaching calls. I usually do those on Wednesdays. If I have to, you need it on a specific date, we'll try to work something out. Okay, so just go to www.breedersacademy.com to subscribe. Okay, you ready to go on the topic, Nancy?
I am ready to go on the topic. What the heck are we talking about tonight?
I have no idea.
Okay, anybody got any questions? No,
okay, kidding. So this is something that Nancy and I were discussing, and I thought that would make a good show. So when good strains go bad, and basically what it's about is how to manage unwanted, unexpected traits that kind of just show up suddenly. Just all of a sudden they're there. You don't know where they came from. And it's if it's not handled properly, you can actually destroy your strain, or you'll cease to make progress in the strain that you're creating. So let's go ahead.
However, did it just show up suddenly?
Yeah, that's the mystery.
Did it?
It's an enigma. Okay.
We'll see.
So Nancy, purity of blood creates predictability. What do you think? I'm going to bring Nancy in this quite a bit.
Oh, God. Lord, help me now. So purity of blood, really? Purity of blood? There is no pure chicken out there. What are you talking about, purity of blood? So you want to explain what we mean when we're talking about purity of blood?
I'm talking about a family that's been bred over many generations, that become uniform, consistent. They're predictable. You know what you're going to get, and they're repeatable. They can repeat themselves year after year. Okay, to me, that's a pure family. Okay,
that's a genetically pure family, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen overnight. It can take, depending on the fowl that you start with and the quality of those fowl, it could take a few years. But if you look at the way the Founders Program, I would I would expect it to take between 5 and 10 years to say I've got a family, and then a few more years out of that after that before they are uniform, consistent, and predictable and repeatable. And so
Well, in the Founders Program, if you're following it step by step, you're going to get there where you have purity of blood. Wouldn't you say?
Say that again. I kind of blinked out.
Ooh, he blinked out on me. I'm usually the one blinking out on him. So, because I'm doing two things at once. I'm listening to you and I'm watching the chat. So, okay, once again, the Founders Program. If you're following the steps in the Founders Program, if you're a Breeders Academy member and you're following the Founders Program, which is our whole breeding program,
signature breeding program,
if you're following along in the Founders Program, you will get there to genetic purity of blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Okay, so when
just agree with me with anything that I say tonight, and we'll be fine.
If it'll prevent a fight, I'm there. Okay. So what if, Nancy, what happens if I have a pure family yet a defect shows up all of a sudden? Then what?
You cry into your pillow, you get up the next day and you go back to your chickens and go, what the hell did I just do?
Okay, besides that.
Okay. Besides that, key principles, podcast talking points. Let's see here. We're past that.
You're cheating.
I am cheating.
No. That's where we're at, really. But
okay, so what's the question again? No. What do? First of all, you got to evaluate your chickens and where you went wrong. If you've been breeding for, like, say 3 to 5 years, and all of a sudden you've got things that are popping up that you had no idea were there, and that very well can happen, because when you started out with your Adam and Eve, you're really not sure all the traits that you have in there, and you've got a lot of recessive traits. Those are traits that you don't see per se, and so it's going to take you a good many years, 3 to 5 years, for those recessive genes to maybe start popping up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What if I were to tell you that unwanted traits don't just appear, but they're revealed? What would you say?
Okay, now see, that one threw me for a loop earlier today when I read that, because I'm like, isn't it appear and what was the other one? Reveal? Isn't that kind of like the same thing? And then you explained to me, no, not exactly. I'm not exactly meaning the same thing. So appear to somebody would mean it just showed up, and I don't know how it got into my line. It must have been from an ancestor 2,000 years ago, and this is finally just showing its ugly head. No, it revealed itself. It revealed itself because you had two recessive genes that got matched together, and now, woof, there you go. And now it's showing its ugly head. Yeah. And that can happen. You can have your birds for a good, 15, 20 years and not show up because you put two birds together that had that hidden recessive gene.
That's what it takes. It takes bringing two birds together that have the same recessive alleles for that gene. Okay. So whenever that happens, that's when you're going to see it. So, because a lot of people think, well, they suddenly appear. I guess it's a mutation, or it's a throwback to something. And the problem I have with throwbacks is that they want to contribute throwbacks to a name. Like, oh, that trait came from the hatch side, or that trait came from the leaper side that's in them, or that came from the roundheads or the lacies or whatever. And it doesn't work like that, because a throwback can show up, I don't want to say suddenly, because it's basically, like Nancy said, it's a recessive trait. And it only shows up when both parents have the same recessive allele for that particular trait. And so there's no attachment when you think of that trait, there's no attachment to a name. That trait, that recessive trait could have been entered into the family at any time. Has nothing to do with the breed, the strain, or the name that it was given, or the name that it was given. It's just a recessive trait. It's a simple recessive trait that was introduced into the family, who knows when, by whatever bird. Even if they had a pure family and they decide to infuse, and this happens a lot of times where they infuse a bird from the outside into it, thinking they're going to improve it, They see a lot of benefits to it, but only because that family didn't carry that particular recessive trait. They didn't see it for a long time. Okay. Then somebody else gets it, happens to match it to one of their birds or a bird they might have gotten that actually had that recessive trait, even if they weren't expressing it. Now you're seeing it in the offspring, and they want to contribute that to a throwback, something to a family. And that's all it is a simple recessive trait. So things just don't appear. It's like Nancy said, it was always there. It just revealed itself, you know.
Here, I gotta pull this up because this goes right along the line of what we're talking about. Okay, so Sue says, okay, I got one for you, Kenny. Breeding a bearded breed for 8 years. Only other bird brought in a cock bird 6 years ago. All birds related. Last 2 years getting birds with no beards.
Okay. Well, no beard is a recessive trait. It's the recessive side of that gene. Okay. So beards are two things. They're dominant and they're polygenic. That's why whenever we talk about this all the time, but anytime you see variation in a trait, we know that they're multi-gene traits or they're determined by multi-gene traits. And that's where we get in the variation. But it is also a dominant trait. So when you started getting no beards, you actually didn't know it, but you matched two birds that carried the recessive allele for no beard. Okay. Your job there is just don't breed the ones that have no beard and you'll be good. Just keep breeding to the birds with the beards and the birds with the best beards, the fullest beards, and you're going to improve that trait. So that's the problem with recessives is they're hiding, just waiting to come out, just waiting for that match to come and match that recessive allele with the other parent, and it will be expressed. And the only problem with dominance is we rarely know if they're pure for that dominant trait. In this case, they weren't, or you wouldn't have had the no beards. They would have came out bearded every time if they were pure. And then the fact that you get different intensities for that beard, then we know also that they're polygenic. So knowing the monogenic side of it is important, but also knowing the polygenic side is important too, to improve it. The monogenic will tell you whether you have it or not, and the polygenic will tell you at what intensity you have it. So
also, you got to make sure that you keep really good records on that, because if you forget 2 years down the line that, oh, this particular part of my breeding program are producing no beards, which, hopefully you've gotten rid of those, but you need to know where that no beard came from so that you can document it and remember that for years to come.
And also, if that trait is important, get rid of the birds that have no beards. Because it's in the family, Sue. It's hiding in there. Once it's expressed itself, that it's there. Unless you have a group of birds that are of the same breed variety and have that particular trait, but they're not related, then we really don't know, because some of them may be homozygous for that particular trait and some may be heterozygous for that particular trait. But if they're one family and you're seeing some that are no beard, then we know that particular trait is within the family. And it's just something we have to watch for. You got to keep breeding to the highest intensity of that trait and to the into the dominant side of that trait until you don't see it anymore. You just keep doing that. And it'll get to the point where it is essentially hidden until you bring a bird from the outside that actually carries that trait, whether it's expressing it or not. Then you'll start seeing it pop up in the offspring again. Same thing with my birds out there, my Maximus line. Now, these are birds that I got from a breeder called his name was Colonel Gibbons. And when I asked him about them, he just kept saying to me, oh, they're the Harold Brown blood. So I didn't get a lot of information about them other than where he got them. And the whole time I've had them for like 30 years now. I've never put outside blood in them. But when I got them, they were throwing both peak comb and single comb. For the Gamefowl world, straight comb. Okay. And I just kept breeding to the peak comb side and just kept getting rid of the straight comb until the point where I haven't seen the straight comb in my birds for, God, I couldn't tell you how many years. because I was able to get that to the point where it was hidden pretty quickly. I was really surprised. But when I started breeding I started working on the black pearls, and I was basically I got a black-breasted black red cock, and I was using my Maximus line to bred to those to create what I have now, which is the black pearls. Okay. It took a while because I was getting both the black-breasted red and the black-breasted black reds. I was getting both the green leg and the black leg, and I was getting the pea comb and the straight comb. And I just kept fine-tuning them, working them through the program, the founder's program, eliminating all the traits that I didn't want, getting down to the few that I thought could advance my strain and take them to the next level. And to this day, I'm not getting the straight comb. I'm getting black legs and they're black-breasted black reds. I'm not getting the black reds anymore. But when I was doing that, when I was breeding my Maximus line into that black-breasted black red cock, and I was working them out, trying to build family from that, for a while there, I was getting the straight comb, which told me that my birds were still not pure for the pea comb. Okay, I just knew it. Okay, so if I'm going to bring in, I got them to a point where they were not expressing that recessive trait anymore, but I knew that it was still there. And then the same thing with the black pearls. I'm to the point now where I don't see the straight comb in those too. Now, if I bring outside bird, like if I bring either a straight comb or I bring a bird that has the straight comb allele, then I'm going to start seeing straight combs again. And I just know that, you know what I mean? So I know that if I want to preserve the pea comb, I got to not bring that kind of bird in here. And there is a way, I don't want to get into it right now, but there is a way by understanding how a Punnett square works, you can, by understanding how big the family is and how many birds are in the family, I can guarantee that 25% of those birds are homozygous for that pea comb trait, that dominant trait. The problem is that they're still heterozygous for the straight comb trait or the pea comb trait, but I would say, I don't know what the percentage would be for the straight comb trait because I don't even have those here. But if I had one here, I would know that it was pure. The problem is finding those homozygous dominant birds so that I could breed them in a way, and Sue could do the same thing if she wanted to test them enough to find out which birds on her farm, depending on how many she has, are homozygous dominant for that particular trait. And she could only breed those, get rid of the rest, and she would never see a no bearded bird ever again.
As long as she didn't bring in outside blood.
As long as she didn't bring in outside blood. And the trick is testing your birds and finding the cock and hen that are pure for that particular trait, and then only breeding those and getting rid of everything else. Well, the problem is we also have to consider the complete package, which means if we're going to spend that much time on the beard only, we could lose conformation and type along the way. So there's a trade-off, but are you willing to do the testing and willing to do what it takes to get you there and still try to find a way to maintain the other traits too?
Okay, so for those who do not know what he means by testing, can you explain quickly what do you mean by testing your birds?
By breeding, if I have a bird that's showing the dominant trait, by breeding it to a recessive bird and seeing what the offspring do. So if I have a bearded bird and I breed it to a bird that has no beard, if he's pure for that trait, that bearded trait, all the offspring, no matter how many I produce, should be bearded. The question is, how much of a sample do I need to ensure that they are true homozygous dominant for that particular trait? Some traits, it could be a clutch or two. Some may need hundreds of chicks, okay? Because you could hatch 100 chicks, and if you have one that shows the recessive trait, then you know they're not pure for that dominant trait, you know? So it's do you want to do what it takes to do it? And if not, you know, I understand it, but that's what it takes to actually get them to homozygous dominant.
This is her dilemma. None her non-bearded girls have perfect bodies, and the crest is perfect.
Yeah. So if I were her, I would probably create a subline with those and work and maintain that really good type and conformation and the other traits. And then try to also perfect in her foundation line, try to perfect that beard. And then down the road, bring one of the best beards into her when she feels like they're right. Bring the best beards. Let me say this too. It would have to be a bird with the best beard, but close to a good type and conformation as possible. And create a line out of that. That's the tough part. Or she's just going to have to keep working on the good type and conformation, because we talk about all the time, it is a polygenic trait, and over time it can be improved because we see variation in that, so that's the other thing. But never screw up her foundation line whatsoever.
No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keep two lines going and then see. I don't know that much about that particular breed. If in the standard perfection they have to have a beard or not, or if there's two different types of varieties. But if you're planning on showing those birds and it doesn't have the qualities that the standard perfection says it needs to have for the show, then I guess that makes the decision for you.
No, if I remember the breed she's breeding, that beard's important. So
yeah, so that makes a decision for her. She can't go with which one ends up being the best. Yeah.
So that's really important. So so how do I want to do this? So if we're looking at a pure family that all of a sudden shows flaws, but we want to improve them without having to start over, the question is, what do we do? So Nancy, we need to understand the traits that we're working with.
But how do we understand the traits we're working with if we don't know anything about genetics? How are we going to find out?
And that's the dilemma, because you need not only understand, and that's where a lot of people fail, because they can't make the proper choice. They can't make the proper selection if they don't know what they're dealing with. Mm-mm. Because of just breeding everything, breeding all their birds together, doing random breeding, they're just going to keep getting mixed results. Okay. What's the matter?
Because that brings me up with what we did a lot of discussing today. We probably should have been on audio all day long recording, because we were discussing stuff all day long.
Could have just played that and not have to just
that
was good. Yeah.
Just like, there you go, guys, watch this. No,
Nancy was stressing my brain. Let's put it that way.
And you know what? I always do that to him on show day. It's crazy why I do that. And he gets all stressed out. But I can't help myself. I just want to learn. Anyway, we were coming up with scenarios, and I came up with one scenario about M&Ms. And if you have, say, you have like, I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but something about all you eat was brown M&Ms.
Well, you were talking about variety of birds, and it was like, some people don't want a family that's the same all the time. They want variety. And so you start talking about the different varieties you see in M&Ms. What do you do when people want to see different colors like they do their M&Ms?
Well, see, that was the thing. It was what do you do with people that are like, I like bringing in new blood every 2 years, because then I get to see all these new and exciting traits that my birds start carrying. It's like
all the
variety, all the And then he's like, but with all the good traits comes all the bad traits with it, And so we were talking about how, like if somebody likes just brown M&Ms but you want all the other colors of the rainbow, and then you put them in there because you want your M&Ms to be beautiful, some reds, some greens, some blues, some yellows and stuff like that. But that's not what's going to happen.
So I told her, I go, so if I had a bag of M&Ms and I had all these different colors, red, blue, green, brown, whatever. Okay. What do I do? What happens when I breed them? What happens when I breed them all together? What do you get? And she goes like blue, brown, green, and red, or whatever. And I go, no, they're all going to be rainbow colored. You're not going to get that pure red. You're not going to get that pure green, that pure blue, and pure brown. You're going to get, if they could show their genetics and color, they would look like rainbows, because now they've been recombinated. They're what was I going to say? They've got not only all the genes that from all the different birds, but now they have the recessives, the unwanted recessives, the detrimental defects, the deleterious genes, maybe even some lethal genes and some disease and genetic disease. They've lost some of their resistance, that kind of thing. Their mitochondrial DNA has suffered. So now you don't have all these different colors. Now you have a bunch of rainbow things, M&Ms, and you just screwed up your bag of M&Ms. So that's how that conversation
but
went.
Do they still taste the same?
Well, in this case, they probably would, unless they well, tell me this. In the M&Ms, do the reds and the greens taste differently, or is it just a coating?
I don't know. It depends on how crazy
I haven't had
minded you
M&Ms
are.
in a long time. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess if they tasted differently, then they would.
I don't know, guys.
Taste like
what do you think? Let's do a poll. Do they taste differently? No, I'm just joking. This is Monday.
So yeah. So she's right that you have to understand not only the traits they carry, but what's the genetics behind them? What's the genetic factors of those traits? And that's going to make a big difference on how you select them, how you breed them, the results you're going to get. Because you can't just experiment all the time. You can't say, well, I'll just breed this with this and see what I get. Because some traits are changed, some are eliminated. Some change their intensity depending on it. So you might think, well, if I breed this and this, I'll get this. Well, no, there was maybe some recessives in there. Now you lost maybe the trait that you were actually looking for. Okay, or you've lost the intensity of that trait and they're not what they were. Either way, they're not the birds that that you hoped they would be, and they're not going to be the birds that they once were. So it's I like to simplify it as much as possible, in that some traits are going to be monogenic, which means some are going to be dominant recessive. That's going to change the way you select them and the way you breed them. It's all about selecting the traits that you want and eliminating the others. Okay. Then you have sex-linked traits, which is going to express it's going to express certain traits on one sex only, which can complicate things. I like to try to stay away from that as much as possible. Some people can use sex linkage in their favor, and sometimes it works for them. But to me, that just creates more genetic diversity, more genetic variability, which I don't like, because I want predictability. I want those birds to come out the same all the time. And so I would try to breed them in such a way that I'm not dealing with those sex-linked traits. Like I said, sometimes it works for people. When you're dealing with hybrids and crosses and traits that are heterozygotes, and you like that, then you're going to see a lot of
variations,
sex-linked traits. Yeah, a lot of variation in there. And for some, that can be like for, let's say, Tony had a family of Hatch. We'll just call him Hatch. He got him from a breeder called Herman Collins. And they were sex-linked. They were basically a light red that were green-legged, actually they were yellow-legged, and the hens came out green-legged. So the Herman Collins and maybe even Tony were able to, if they didn't want as many pullets, which to me that's a mistake, they could actually weed out the pullets, or actually separate them into pullets and stags at a pretty early age, because they could tell right away that if they were green-legged, they were pullets, and if they were yellow-legged, they were stags. And then you could determine what you want to do from them at that point. Well, I had the family long enough that I got them to the point when they were all green-legged. I got rid of the yellow leg and I got them all green-legged, which I liked. I thought they were better that way, So
I got a question for you. How, if all the pullets are green-legged and all the males, all the cockerels are what, yellow? Yeah. Is that what you said? Yellow-legged? Yeah. When you breed the hen to the rooster, the hens are green and the rooster is yellow. How do you not get in the offspring a mixture of greens and yellows all over the place?
You know what? Let's do a show on sex linkage.
Okay.
And because that
I'm writing it down.
would take us, I could do a whole show on that, and that would take us off the topic completely. Okay.
I got it written down.
I'm just trying to express or show you the different genetic factors you have to deal with, so that when you're looking at the bird, you can look at the traits on the bird and say, okay, that's a dominant trait. Okay, that's a recessive trait. That's a sex-linked trait. And the only time you'll know if it's a sex-linked, by the way, if you have both the cocks and hens in front of you and you understand the family. And then I can look at some and go, okay, I know which ones are polygenic, and I would select and I would breed them accordingly to get the results I'm looking for. Okay, that we teach that in the Breeders' Academy, of course, but that's something you should know if you're going to be a breeder. And I believe that if you don't understand those, it's really tough to be how do you call yourself a true breeder when you're just speculating all the time? Now, I understand in the old days, before we understood genetics, there was breeders out there that could create families, create new breeds, new varieties, without knowing the genetics. But the truth is, that was a very few people. That wasn't everybody.
They were very gifted.
Very selected people that could actually do that made the difference, so that we see the birds we see today. That wasn't happening with everybody. Breeding birds and keeping them alive without medications, getting them more disease resistant. Well, I would contend that the birds were pretty resistant already, that the diseases there, I actually believe back in the day, they probably weren't dealing with as many diseases as we are, because I believe if everybody stopped giving their birds medications, we'd see how healthy they really are. And most people would lose their families overnight, So I do believe that they did things differently, but the ones that were getting the results that we're talking about were very few people. Okay. So yeah, I believe that's a big part of understanding the trait, is understanding the genetics to get the results you're looking for. So that would be the first thing. If we're looking to create or actually fix a family that's starting to show unwanted traits, so that we don't have to start over, is if you understand the traits, then you understand which traits to eliminate, which ones to breed to the point where you're advancing the strain, but yet leaving the detrimental and the defects behind, and strengthen them over time. So, you have any questions, Nancy?
Nope. Continue on to the dreaded culling.
Okay, so the next one would be cull anything that expresses the defect. Now, does that sound simple to you, Nancy? We talked about this one too.
It sounds very simple. However, for some people, that's a hard thing to do. And then what about the people that think, well, his toe is a little crooked. Maybe it's just because it happened in the brooder and the temperature in the brooder was off, and that's why the toe is a little crooked. It's not genetic. No. So he lets it grow up. He puts it into the breeding program, breeds it with a hen because he's beautiful. He's got everything else good. And then he's in the breeding program for 3 or 4 years. Everything's good. It must have been that doggone incubator. 5th season comes around and he's got crooked toe all over the place.
Yeah. Okay. So like she's saying, you get what you tolerate. So if you're going to tolerate a defect, it's going to perpetuate itself. It's going to start off small. You're not going to think too much about it. Then all of a sudden, before you know it, you wake up and all your birds are carrying the defect. I've seen it a million times where not a million times, but I went to many farms where they either had a serious case of duck toe with no bird, all the birds had it. Fixing it was almost nearly impossible without bringing in outside blood. A family they were all severely squirrel-tailed, which is kind of fixable, and we worked on that. And I had I saw another family that was all, or a majority of them actually, were rye-tail, which is probably one of the worst defects at all, because they tolerated. They didn't think it was a big deal. They thought it was something they could take care of later. But as we know, is that defects like crooked breastbone, curled toes, those are traits that a lot of people say, oh, that's his environment. That's the incubator. That's the brooder. That was how they roosted. Well, the environment does cause a lot. Okay, it does cause the defect to be expressed, but it's the genetics that allows it to happen. So if the genetics were strong, then they could have put any roost post on there, and they would have not got a crooked breastbone. I hear it all the time. Oh, I just roosted them too early. No, they had really poor bone density. That's genetic. Okay. They have crooked toes. That was just the brooder or the incubator. No, it's genetic. And you breed them, you're going to find out really quickly, or maybe in a generation or two, how genetic it actually was. Whenever you see a fault, a defect, eliminate it right away. Don't even mess with it. Because even though it may not be genetic, maybe it's caused by the environment. I think it is genetic, but let's say it is caused by environment. You don't know for sure. And you won't see the evidence of that or the consequences of that for maybe a few years. And then you're going to figure out what you actually have. Now, a lot of people get away with it because they're, like we say, is bringing outside blood in continuously, which hides a lot. But you don't have a family, okay? You've got hybrids. You've got mongrels. Two birds crossed together from different families, you get hybridization. Multiple lines, like three-way crosses, four-way crosses, you move it to, it becomes mongrelization. Is that a bad thing? Well, if you're trying to create a family, if you want predictability, it's a really bad thing. If you're trying to create a family, as long as that bird shows all the traits you're looking for, it represents its breed, it's healthy, no defects, has the type, conformation, and color you're looking for, temperament, behaviors, whatever, then and you feel like you can make a family, great. That bird, I don't care what the name is or anything, that bird has the potential to be used to create a family. The only thing you need to do now is find the hen that matches them, that has the same criteria. Okay. So I don't care whether it's when you're starting a strain, I don't care if it's pure, I don't care if it's a hybrid, I don't care if it's a mongrel. We can create a family with that as long as you're willing to do what it takes to get there. And I think the Founders Program is perfect for that. The problem is people see a lot of variation, a lot of genetic diversity, a lot of genetic variability. They see contrasting characteristics, all kinds of stuff, and they panic. It seems to get worse in the beginning. They don't realize it's the few birds that they can use actually advance the strain. And then they give up and they add new blood. And if they keep adding new blood, they hide all the faults. But they can call it whatever they want, but they can't call the bloodline. They can't call the strain. It's not a family. They're hybrids. They're just hybrids and mongrels. If you're okay with that and you want variety, like Nancy's M&Ms, then fine. You're just not a breeder, okay? But if you want to actually create a family, then you have to do things completely different than that. And it takes some discipline, and there's just some things you have to do to not only become the breeder you hope to be, but to create the family you want, that you desire. Okay. So.
All right. So I like here what Hens and Heifer says. Just did 17 yesterday. And we're talking about culling here. Just did 17 yesterday, but they were the backups to my backups for the year. Boys only on that round. And, I have a question for Hens and Heifer. Now, did your yard look better after that? Because I know Kenny does. When he comes in and he's had a culling day and he comes in, he goes, oh, my yard looks so much better.
Think of it, Nancy. How long has it been since I've had to do that, where I had a culling day? Yeah. No, I don't really have a lot of bad birds these days.
It has been a lot of years.
Yeah. But Tony and I used to have this thing we used to kid each other about, that you have this one bird that's showing a fault, whatever it is, okay? And you go to feed it, and that bird's on your mind most of the day. You're feeding the other birds, and you're checking them out, but your mind keeps going to that one bird because that one fault, you're just not sure what to do about it. It may be the one fault that it has. The rest of it seems pretty good, or it could be bad, but you just don't want to deal with it right now. And you keep saying every day, I'll do it later. But it's funny thing that you go and you eliminate that one bird and your whole yard looks better. We used to kid each other about it, that just take the time to deal with it. I had that problem. I'm sure you guys have heard about it, where I had a bird. It was a cock who had one duck toe.
Yeah.
Everything else about it was beautiful. I was like, oh my God, it's one of the best birds I've ever had. Just has one duck toe. I must have kept him for a good 3 years, maybe 4. I'm not sure. I had him for a long time in that one pen, holding up that one pen, because I couldn't get myself to cull him because I kept thinking, God, there's so much about that bird I like. And I talked to Tony about it. He says, just cull it, Kenny. Just do yourself a favor, get rid of it, and be done with it. And I got to admit, there was a time when I thought about just going ahead and breed and see what happens. And so I went and culled it. Yeah, it hurt. I didn't like it. I still remember that bird to this day. But I didn't breed it, and I didn't perpetuate that trait. So I'm glad about that. But it was sad,
Yeah, just take a picture of it. Memories.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Hens and Heifer says, laugh out loud. It gave me more space. That's for sure. Of course. Yep. 17. Yeah. They were decent, but yeah, didn't want to breed to them unless it was the last option.
Yeah, that's
I like
the key.
her thinking. She's doing good. Oops.
Because I have my A birds, which are my breeders. I have my backups that are really good birds, just because I have too many breeders. And then I have my C birds, which are birds I used to sell. They're the ones I showed, but I don't have time to show anymore, and I don't sell any birds. So nowadays, I'll give them to one of my members. That's what I tend to do with the C birds. But I'm a big believer of backups, absolutely, because I've seen so many people, hatch like 100 chicks of a particular family, and pick out their few breeders and get rid of every extra rooster, and then something happens like a sickness or a predator, and then all of a sudden they don't have any birds. They have no cocks or nothing to actually replace the ones they had. And every time I see that, I go, oh, I don't believe that you guys are doing that. Yes, it costs money. Yes, I guess it could be expensive to hold on to those roosters, especially some of these domestic birds that are big and eat a lot of feed. I get it. But that security, there's no price for that. I'd definitely keep them for backups for sure. Okay. So step 3 in recovering your strain without starting over would be never add outside blood to fix a flaw. Okay, what do you think, Nance?
No, I gotta bring in outside blood to fix the flaw, or else how am I gonna fix the flaw?
That's the answer to everything, right?
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's not.
No, you didn't fix the flaw. You changed the family, and you've brought in other traits that you most likely didn't want. So
right, recombinating the genes, definitely.
Well, so you recombinate the genes no matter what, but you're recombinating with a mixture of your family and their family.
That's what I'm saying.
They're unpredictable. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
what do you do?
Well, your line doesn't. You just don't bring in outside blood. You fix it. You stay within the family, and you fix it. Now, it could. Here's the thing: is they're like, wow, I'm not seeing the improvement I need right away. It's taking some time. Yeah. You're going to see quicker results when it comes to the monogenic traits like the dominant recessive. Those are easy. I can take care of those in one generation. But the polygenic traits, just accept. And those are all your form and function traits, by the way. Accept that that's going to take some time. A lot of those improvements are going to be very subtle. And you're going to have to do what a program that we are working on. We have it, but I got to get it back on the website, called Improvement Through Reduction. Sometimes the flaw is so bad and it's scattered throughout the family so much that you have to really look over your bird and say, okay, do I have a cock and a hen or a small group of birds that have the ability, don't express a trait, don't have any issues, they represent their family really well? Is there enough of those that I can get rid of everything else and I can restart the family with those? Now, this is genetic drift at its worst and its best, meaning if you pick the wrong birds, genetic drift is going to work against you and you're going to go in the wrong direction and you screwed up your strain. But if you pick the right birds, you make huge progress really fast because you've weeded them down to the few to the best, and right away you go in a good direction. But then even after that, some of the improvements will, once you get going, some of the improvements are going to be subtle, but that's the key to improving them.
But the thing of it is, too, you've got to know what to select for. You've got to do enough studying in the genetics to know the genetics on how to choose.
And that's why I think genetic drift works against a lot of people because they didn't understand the birds. A lot of people, no matter what the breed is, a lot of people understand the purpose for the breed, but they don't understand what makes up the breed. I see this in domestic chickens, show birds. I see this in gamefowl. A lot of people understand what they're bred for, but they don't understand what makes up the breed. So when they look at traits, they have no idea what they're looking at. Okay. They're okay with the contrasting characteristics. They're okay with a defect here and there. They're okay with the healthcare or the poor health because they have the medications. All poor breeding practices. Okay. You take control of your breeding program. You take control of your family when you understand the selection process, when you understand not only the breed, but the traits that they carry and the genetic factors of those traits. You take control of your family when you can get them away from the medications, breed towards resistant, and they're bulletproof at that point. Okay. Think of how many breeders actually do that. I bet you'd have a tough time even lifting one finger to figure that, to determine that one.
Okay, before you get into step 4, because this pertains to that, I wanted to bring this one up from Joaquin. I'm new to breeding. So if you have a pair that you call pure and suddenly something else comes up, does it mean that whatever came out is a bad chicken? What if it is the best that you have? What if
best you can get?
It's the best that you can get. Okay, what if it's the best you can get?
Okay, leave that up there. Don't take it off. So let's put it this way. Well, it depends on, okay, first of all, it depends on the bad trait that you're talking about. Okay, that's part of the selection process and understanding the genetics, because we talked about it a second ago. Some traits are monogenic, which are easy. I either keep it, breed to it, exaggerate it, or it's a recessive trait, that an unwanted recessive that I want to get rid of. Okay, most unwanted traits, bad traits, defects, those are recessive. So I just eliminate those. Hopefully you have birds that are okay. But if they're all like that, then we got a problem, which is going to lead us into the next answer here. So, but I want to see how I want to answer this. But if it's a trait that goes against its actual breed and variety and strain, then they weren't pure. Okay, so what do we mean pure? Are we talking about the various traits? Are we talking about the whole family? If they're a family that are pure, we go back to what I was talking about before. They got to be uniform, so they all have to look the same. They have to be consistent throughout the family with those traits. They have to be predictable, so I know that when I breed them, I know what I'm going to get. I'm not going to get any surprises. And they got to be repeatable. I know that when I breed them, I'm going to keep getting the same thing generation after generation. To me, that's what represents a pure family. I don't get excited about a little defect here and there or flaw, because when I see it from one bird here and there, you just eliminate it. And you're refining the family, they'll get better over time to the point when you don't see that defect anymore. Because the more homozygous you get the family, the more you inbreed them, which a lot of people think is a bad thing. I actually think that's the only way to create a family. Just got to know what to do with that. But the more inbred they are, the more they're going to express some of the deleterious genes, the defects, and unwanted traits. Actually, that's a good thing, because you're going to eliminate those as you go, and they're going to get more and more pure as they go. Now, as far as getting too inbred, we have a stage and a phase inside the Breeders' Academy on the Founders Program that takes care of that. You never have to worry about inbreeding depression. You never have to worry about them getting too close, because we have a phase within that program that takes care of that for you. Okay. You can keep a family going forever the way we do it. You don't have to ever add outside blood, because then you don't have a family. So the next step 4 would be, go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. So the reason why I brought that up, because in some instances you're breeding for 2 or 3 or 4 years and you feel like you're getting to the point where you're doing genetic purity breeding, and then something else pops up. And as I understand it, that just means you haven't cleaned up the family good enough.
Well, that's true too. And the cleanup process of the Founders Program, which is the first few stages, will help you clean that up. Because here's the deal. She's right. Is if you don't clean them up properly, And the first few stages of the Founders Program helps you do that. And you go into the foundation stage, and you still have a lot of defects, contrasting characteristics, or genetic diversity, or some genetic variability showing up, then they weren't cleaned up properly, and those birds weren't ready to be cloned. They weren't ready for the foundation stage. And so I never want to go into the foundation stage with birds with faults, or birds that I'm matching up together. They're going to throw a lot of faults. That's key. And a lot of breeding programs don't have that. They don't have what we call the Adam and Eve, the Genesis phase. They don't have the cleanup process, which we also call the transition stage or the transformation stage. And a lot of them don't have that, so they don't really have a true foundation stage, is what we have. Okay. And so then you can't call them a real family. So
yeah, and that goes right along with General Patton. What he's saying is, this is why Kinney says, select the best pair to mate to start with. Most important thing, the hatch and raise however many you can manage and afford.
Yeah, he's right. You know, it's making sure you start with the best birds possible, which will get you going on the right foot. Because if you're starting with birds with a lot of faults, a lot of issues, then you're going to fight it for a while. You know, it's going to take you I'm not going to say forever. It's going to take you a long time to get to a point that they're cleaned up and get you into the foundation stage. If you start with good birds, you know, you're going to jump a lot of leaps and bounds. I mean, you're still going to have to go through the stages everybody else goes through, but it's going to be a lot quicker process. And I don't care who you get them from. I don't care how pure they say they are. Expect some faults, expect some diversity, and that's okay, you know, because if you understand what you're doing and you understand the breeding process, like the Founders Program, you're going to know what to do about that, and you're still going to make the progress that you need to make. It's all about finding the right birds and finding two birds that match each other properly. So I don't care where I get them from. I don't even care if you get them from me. Okay, expect to have to clean them up. Expect when you breed them together that you're going to see something that you're going to have to weed out, you know.
And going along with that, you were saying earlier that in the breeders program, we have a way that you won't get into breeding depression. And so Hens and Heifers is asking, oh, so you mean everybody is becoming related? After a while, all your birds on your farm are related.
Okay, is that what she's meaning?
I think that's what she's asking.
Okay. The idea is I have a family that, yeah, they're all related. And this is the problem. I think she may be a member. If she's a member, we can always do a coaching call and talk about it more, because now we're getting into the Founders Program. So I know that sounds like, oh my God, they're all, I hope I understand you properly. Oh my God, they're all related. What do I do? You know, what am I going to do about getting them too inbred? Do I need to bring in genetic diversity? Should I outcross once in a while? If you understood the Founders Program, you'd understand what I'm talking about. You don't need to do that.
No.
You want them related. We want homozygosity. We want as many dominant homozygous genes as possible. Okay, we want to get them as close as possible. But if you understand how the foundation stage works, you understand that's not a problem whatsoever as far as keeping them that way. Okay. So okay. I hope I understood that right, because that was pretty vague, I think.
Well, that's how I understood it, and that's why I brought it up.
You want them related, you know. If they're not related and you're having to outcross now and then or bringing outside blood, then what do you really got? You don't have a family. Okay,
so she's saying I meant almost a good thing seeing issues pop up.
Well, good in that you're able to clean them up. So exactly. The idea is that when they're expressed, you clean them up. If they're not, then you're good, you know. But you want to, the cleanup process in the Founders Program is in a way that it does help you expose those things so you can get rid of them. That's the key. Awesome. You know, she's a member. So if you ever have any questions, we need to talk about the Founders Program. Let's get together, and definitely. I love the Founders Program. I could talk about that thing all day long. There's no program like it or as good as it. I will stand by that. Okay. So this a lot of what we're talking about now leads to step 4. There's only step 5 steps, guys. So we're almost done here. Good. Because we're getting a little long.
We have 5 questions starred. So yeah, okay. Let me know when you're done.
Okay. So the step 4 would be breed to the good side. So if we have a fault, okay, we see a fault. Let's say we start seeing faults that start showing up. And the idea is to find 2 birds that don't have the fault and just breed to them and get rid of all the faults. But let's say you have to. You have one bird that doesn't have the fault and the other bird that you were hoping to breed to it has the fault. As long as you're not breeding to 2 birds sharing the same fault, the same defect, the same recessive allele, you're fine. Because as soon as you breed 2 birds with the same allele, now all the offspring are going to have it, and there's no way to get around it, because once they all have it, you can't fix them. Now you're going to have to bring in outside blood. You're either going to have to scrap the whole family, or you're going to have to bring in outside blood and strategically breed them in a way that one bird doesn't have the trait. The bird that you're forced to breed may have the trait, but then you bring them together and you just keep selecting the offspring that don't have the trait, getting rid of all the rest. And each generation, you'll start seeing less and less birds expressing the trait. And the idea is to get to a point where you're not seeing the trait anymore. That doesn't mean it's gone. That doesn't mean you've eliminated it. It just means it's hidden. Okay. And so you might see it pop up every once in a while. Just keep eliminating it to the point when you just don't see it anymore. Anytime you bring a new bird that carries that same allele, you're going to start seeing it again. Okay.
So in my opinion, it is complete nonsense when I hear somebody say, oh yeah, I bred it into my family, and then when I was done with it, I bred it back out.
Well, that's the 1/16th infusion method, where people say, oh, and most of the time they're not seeing inbreeding depression. Most of the time they're not seeing the consequences of the inbreeding that they fear. They just fear they've got them too close, or they're going to get them too close, and they panic. And so a lot of people feel that if they don't add or infuse outside blood or do an outcross once in a while, their family is going to get too inbred. They're going to ruin them. Okay. Inbreeding depression is a very interesting, and it's easier to control than you think, only that because that when you see true inbreeding depression, the eggs stop hatching, and when they do, the chicks are lethargic. Those are the first signs. They rarely survive to adulthood when you see true inbreeding depression. And if they do, then you might see some weaknesses as far as disease. But you don't see that very often. It takes so much inbreeding to get them to that point. And I actually know breeders, that's all they do is breed brother and sister every single time. But they understand how to breed them. They understand the selection process. They understand as long as they're breeding towards health and vigor, they can get away with it. And anytime they see a deleterious gene or some kind of defect, they eliminate that right away, and they can continue. I wouldn't do that exactly. I wouldn't suggest anybody do that, but it can be done. Okay. So I'm trying to remember what the original question was. I kind of went off into the weeds, but I do believe that. What was the original question?
No, it wasn't a question. It was just an opinion of mine that for those who think that you can breed in a trait and then breed it back out, it's not gone. It's just has become recessive.
Okay, so let me get back on track. So the 1/16th infusion method is for those who fear inbreeding or think they're going to get there. They want to so-called refresh the blood by bringing blood or a bird that they think they can trust, or they think the breeder they know, or it's just outside, to come in and give them that diversity they need to actually strengthen the family. Well, as we were talking about earlier, it just changes the family. It doesn't strengthen anything, and it brings in a lot of unwanted genes that are harmful, and they're not the family they once were. And if you look at the Founders Program, it's a really good program that eliminates the need to do that. Okay. I think that's a fault. I don't think that's the way to go. Again, if you're adding blood, even if it's every 5 or 10 years, then you don't have a family. They're not a family. They're not a bloodline. They're not a strain. Okay. They're hybrids. And every time you get them to a point of homozygosity and you bring in new blood, you just keep starting over. That's the myth that I see going on. Everybody thinks you got to refresh them every once in a while. Well, that just shows me they don't know what the hell they're doing. They're not a breeder. They don't understand the process. They don't know how to actually keep a true family going. That's a shame. For some of these guys have been breeding for a long time. They're supposed to be true breeders. They're supposed to have good reputations and authorities in the business. They don't have families. That's sad. Okay. And people are buying birds from them. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get on a tangent. I can go off on that one. I just think there's a better way to do it, and people fight it, So, are we in stage or step 5 now?
We're in step 5. So what does
Okay.
step 5 say?
So
Final
once
thoughts.
huh?
Final thoughts. The breeder's mindset.
That's not step 5.
It is. It is on my docs.
Okay. Well, let's go with mine.
Okay. Look at that. You misnumbered this, my friend.
I'm trying to
go down a little bit.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm trying to confuse you. Okay. That number was supposed to be gone. Okay. So I'm going to wrap it up pretty soon here. So basically, you're trying to get to a point where you're eliminating the defect. You're trying to get to a point when they're not being expressed anymore. You're not doing it by adding outside blood. And it's all about getting them to the point when they're a foundation strain again. And that takes time, because you might have to rebuild them from the ground up a little bit. You might have to, reduce the family so much that you feel like you only got a few birds left. But what's the matter? You're laughing at me, aren't you? I look up and you're like laughing. Okay, what did I say?
That's it right there. Keep them straight, Nancy. That's what I'm laughing about. Love it.
Okay. So that's basically it. There's something that Nancy and I were talking about. That'll make a good episode,
So, in conclusion, when a good strain goes bad, that's not necessarily the end of the world.
No.
It can be fixed. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few questions
good.
for you, Kenny. So we're going to pick your brain. We're going to start with Sunny. And she's asking, what are Kenny's thoughts on land race projects for individual flocks? Primary goals for disease resistance and production. First of all, Kenny, let's give the definition of a land race project.
How do I describe it? I think of land races like, I think American games are land races because they're just, how do I say this? There's so many different bloodlines that make up American games. There's not very many people that have what I would call pure families. They're always bringing in new blood and infusing blood into their families. So, God, what's a good definition of land race? That's like I see it in my mind, but I'm not sure how to describe it. A lot of times you'll see here's a good example. So you have a family that they're pure as a family, but they haven't really been selectively bred for a specific color or maybe a specific type and conformation. But they were selected more for their egg producing ability. Okay. They were more selected towards the function and purpose of the bird, but they didn't really care about the way the birds looked, the overall structure of the bird. So you get a lot of variation, but they've been selectively bred for health so that they have great disease resistance. They are great if they're layers, they're great layers. And if you're trying to develop the meat too, they're great meat. But you get the family itself, from the individual birds in the family are different in many ways. Okay. Over time, if you're never adding outside blood, that land race does kind of find its equilibrium in that you still maintain, because you selected for the disease resistance, they still maintain that great egg laying quality and the meat quality. But over time, the color and the type and conformation start to find their center because they've been a family long enough. They've been a family for so long that it's hard to hold on to some of those dominant homozygous genes. You start breeding towards a recessive because it's easier, and those are the ones that tend to produce more of them. And they just, after a while, they look like a family, but they don't look like any other breed. They're different from every other breed.
Yeah.
But they're your breed.
And that's okay. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I mean, Brian's really into that. I mean, I think if you called him, he'd help you try to do everything you can to maintain and improve your breed of choice. But he favors landrace type birds because he don't care what they look like. He mostly wants them for their function, for their purpose. If they can do the job for which they for what he needs. He doesn't really care what they look like, and he knows that eventually a breed eventually will come out of that. A certain look or type or conformation will come out of that in time. It almost finds itself, you know. And then it's up to you at that point whether you're going to cull any of the odd birds that happen to show up from time to time. But to me, a landrace is that it's a bird that was just kind of created out of necessity, and it is a breed of yours. It is a family, but it doesn't match any of the other breeds. And I actually think that if it's done properly, like Brian talks about, it's more sustainable than a lot of the breeds we have today, because our breeds, especially most of the domestic chicken breeds, they have to be constantly selected and shaped, because anytime you relax, they want to be pushed. Mother Nature will push them one direction or the other. It's your job to keep them at a specific form, a specific color, because Mother Nature is going to want to slip in that weird color once in a while, or that little genetic variance. Okay. And it's your job to selectively breed them so that they always and only breed that particular color, that particular type, that particular conformation, you know. And anything that's off, you're getting rid of that. That's why selective breeding, it's so different. It works the same as Mother Nature, but it's much faster. But we're controlling it. Where Mother Nature, whatever survives in the wild, is what perpetuates and actually survives and actually perpetuates itself. If it can live long enough to produce offspring, that particular species of animal is going to keep on going. It's when Mother Nature gets in there and changes things up and changes the environment. There's a new predator in town, or a new disease happens to show up, or the weather changes and it changes everything. Then they got to reestablish themselves. But selective breeding is much faster because we are purposely selecting the birds that we breed. We're not giving them a chance to select themselves. We're not giving them a chance to say, I want you, or I want you. We're deciding that, you know. And so we can make the progress faster, but is it sustainable? Not if you relax on it. They're going to have to constantly be selected to keep them there. Like Brian says, they're not species. They're man-made. And being that they're man-made, we have to work very hard to keep them where they're at. All their traits. So I hope I explained that to her properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one from Brian. Is that the same as spangled? Now, see, I should have asked this when we were talking about the subject matter. Can you keep breeding spangled and they all come out spangled?
No. It's an incomplete dominant trait. It's a, what's the other one? They have a lot of issues. Like, I'm trying to remember what they were. Yeah, what is it?
I know one thing, that because you had spangles for a little bit and they were just gorgeous, but every time they molted out and their new feathers came in, they were different. They started with a little, correct me wrong, Kenny, they started with a little spangling and then they molt out, and then the next time they came back, the feathers came back in, it was more spangling and more spangling. Before you knew it, it was almost all kind of whitish, ugly-ish spangling.
Yeah. Okay. So spangleds have a lot of genetic issues. Brian calls it modeling, but we know them as spangled. Okay. So they are incomplete. I'm trying to remember for the life of me what the other genetic factors are, but she's right. They don't always come spangled, and you get different intensity for spangled. And then the spangled changes as they get older. So you got progressive white going on there. You got the incomplete dominant trait. You have, I can't think of it for some reason, but so some are going to be more spangled than others, and some are going to turn white before others. So that's why I had them, like she said, because I couldn't breed them pure and, you know, improve on them and perfect them. I lost interest in them. They were nice, but they weren't all the same, and people would come to buy them at that time, and they would always want the few that were the best, and they'd see the other ones. No, that's not the kind of Spangled. But I see that in everybody's Spangles. They just have, whenever you see a family of Spangled and you see different intensity for Spangled, you can see multi-gene too, by the way. They're a multi-gene trait as well. So no, they're nice to have, and they're enjoy them when you have them, but don't try to create a family from them. And don't breed the Spangled into your Reds, because you'll ruin them. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hanson Heifer was saying, yeah, she was thinking progressive white as well.
Yeah, progressive white big time.
All right.
And that's affecting a lot of birds these days. Whenever you see a bird with white in the wings, white under the hackle, you see white streamers in the tail, it's all you can do to maintain it so that it only goes so far, because progressive white just spreads. If you don't control it, it gets worse. And the problem with progressive white, it doesn't just show itself on the outside. It can affect the organs. It's like a disease. It's not exactly a genetic trait. It's almost like a disease. It's a weakness within the constitution of the bird. So progressive white kind of looks cool. A lot of people like it, but the faster you can get away from it, the better you're going to be. So you start with the hens. You look for the hens. Any hens that have white in them whatsoever, it could be in the slightest little blemish, get rid of her. You see white birds, cocks with white in the tail, hackle, or even the feathers or down the saddle, get rid of those. And if you don't have any and they all show the progressive white, then try to find the ones that show it the least and see if you can at least minimize it. But it's a haywire trait that just goes bad after a while. And I see so many people where it gets so bad where the conformation starts to change, the type starts to change, and then their only resource is to bring in new blood, like a solid red. And it helps for a while, and then only see a little bit of white in the tail for a while, then it just goes bad again. I had a family of sweaters I got from Bruce Barnett, and they had when I got them, the females had a little white in them, and the roosters definitely. Do I have a picture of it here?
You probably do.
I might. Here we go. Okay. Can you get that off?
Yes,
you can put that back on in a second. Okay. So these are some of the birds I got from this. This was the Adam and Eve I got from Bruce Barnett. Okay. And I don't have any on here without it. So eventually and I liked it. I understand the attraction of the white in the tail. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
but they did start getting whiter and whiter. They started showing more white in the wings, and I started seeing it under the hackle. And I'm trying to remember who. I think it was Doug Huggins. I think it was him that I was talking to. He helped me a lot with genetics, and I think he was telling me you got to breed away from the white. I don't think he called it progressive white. I learned that from Brian. Brian really opened my eyes to I always knew white was bad. White in the wings and tail were bad, and I always knew that you need to breed away from it. But Brian's really the one that showed me how detrimental and how consequential that particular trait is. But I did know, I was smart enough to know to start breeding away from it, and I got to the point where I didn't have any white in the hens, and the cock's tails were completely black, and they kind of stayed that way. And according to Brian, that's difficult, but it can be done.
You could see in that picture there was a little white in the back too. Right.
No, I think that's I think that's the sun.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that's white in the back.
Well, it looks like a white spot. Okay.
Nope. I didn't have that.
All right. Spazgetti is asking, have you ever dealt with an incomplete dominant gene that I hate that word.
Homozygous.
See, I can't
homozygous. Or homozygous, homozygous, whatever you want to say.
Is a defect, but heterozygous makes for better feathering offspring.
Okay, first of all, incomplete. The main colors I know, as far as chickens are concerned, I know he has bungies or what does he call them? Pudgies. Okay, Budgies. So I don't know if we're talking about the same. I don't really know those birds. So I don't know the genetics of those birds. So I'm not sure I'm helping him. But the only really incomplete dominant traits I know of in chickens is it the cushion comb and blue? What else? My mind's going blank. There's not many, but there are enough to create an issue. So But so blue is a incomplete dominant trait. I don't know if you could call a defect, incomplete dominant defect. See, I don't know of an incomplete dominant defect. I'd have to look that one up because I'm sure there might be. I just can't think of one right now. Most of the traits I know are recessive. But if he's talking about bringing in another bird to improve that trait, so he's talking about feather color. So the only one I know would be blue. I don't know if I can answer that question for him. That's something that, if I get Brian on here again, we do a Q&A with Brian, save that question. I'm sure he'll know.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay, so this is also what he's saying. And you know what? Budgies are parakeets. For any of you Americans out there are wondering what that is. He's from Australia. It's a gene that causes excessive feather growth when homozygous, that they end up dead after 3 months old.
Oh, it's a lethal gene. Okay, that's a lethal gene. Oh man, that's tough because lethal genes are once you get that in the family, you got to be really careful. No, and he's right. You would have to bring in outside blood to improve that. To again, I don't know if you're going to eliminate that lethal gene, but you got to be really careful. You got to bring in outside blood. That'll slow it down, and you got to be careful who you breed after that, because if you keep breeding to birds that have that lethal gene, eventually you're going to breed 2 birds that have it, and you're going to have that problem again. So, yeah, that's the best I can say about that.
Yeah, it's called a mop feather duster.
Okay. Wow, what
a bummer. And if he brought in new blood, he would make a subline? Or would he?
Yeah.
He'd make a subline. Don't put it in.
I don't know if it's fixable or not. Mm-hmm.
And then test it?
Well, you test every time you breed, you're doing a test mating.
Okay.
You should be examining every breeding you do. And if you're in question when you're trying to determine a trait, you definitely do a test mating. Yeah.
Okay. So General Patton, okay, I didn't ask this one already. Can you get to the point where you could predict hybrid vigor amongst 2 strains, made pure by using your program? You get better vigor due to enhanced potency. So just curious. Okay. Hold on. Are we talking 130% plus better than the parents? I'm talking keep 2 strains pure and do 1 new cross each year.
Okay, go back to the first one.
Yes.
Okay. I have to break this down.
Okay.
So you're not going to, I don't know if you can predict hybrid vigor, but you can improve hybrid vigor, kind of what he said, where you're breeding 2 pure families and breeding them together, and you get, if they nick, you get the best hybrid vigor. I mean, that's kind of what you want. But when you're just bringing in new blood all the time, the hybrid vigor isn't as good as you would get from 2 pure families. Now, potency only comes when you have pure families. I'm trying to break this down. So you're not going to get potency from hybrid birds, and you're not going to see potency or really good mitochondrial DNA from unrelated. Like, let's say you're starting your family, your Adam and Eve are already hybrids or mongrels. You're not really going to get the potency and the mitochondrial DNA that you are looking for or hoping to get. You have to get them more towards purity of blood. The more homozygous, dominant, and inbred they are, the better potency and mitochondrial DNA you're going to get. Okay. What's the other part of the question? I'm not sure I'm answering it properly.
Well, here's the thing. If you got 2 pure strains in your family and you put them together to get your hybrid vigor, isn't that better than just putting somebody,
yeah, it is better. Bird? If you're looking to produce hybrids, really good hybrids, but those aren't breedable birds. Those are the product. Okay, so if you're looking at a better potency, then those 2 families both have to be as pure, homozygous, dominant in their traits, as many traits as possible, and you're going to get better potency. mitochondrial DNA. So
Okay,
I'm not sure I'm answering his question or not.
and then here's the rest of it. Are we talking 130% better than the parents?
Okay, so if I'm breeding two pure families, see that's the thing. If I'm doing a proper cross with two pure families, then I'm going to see offspring, hybrid offspring, that are bigger, better, stronger, faster, more productive, whatever, better performance, whatever, than the parents. Okay, that's the neat thing about hybrid vigor, but it's not repeatable. That is the product. You can't pass. It's not passed to the next generation. It ends with that bird, and usually it goes. I mean, that's a, I use those numbers just to give it to show the intensity of it, or the importance of it. Where I have two pure families, let's say they're 100% of their potential. That's the starting point. I bring them together. I get hybrids that are 120, 130% of their parents' potential. Okay. So then I decide that I'm going to breed those hybrids together, and they don't go up to 140. They don't stay at the parents' or grandparents' potential. They fall down to, let's say, 80% of their grandparents, the original parents' potential. And then on top of that, they're unpredictable. They're all over the board due to the meiosis, the crossover event, recombination, genetic variability, gene linkage. You look at how all that works, you can see how unpredictable they're actually going to be. So does that answer his question?
Probably. I understand it.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I got it. Okay, and this one's a really good one. Don't waste your time. Okay?
Yeah.
If you want to be serious about breeding and do it right, become a member. You want to know what to look for by being a member. The best thing you can do may already be in your yard.
Yeah. That's absolutely
really,
right. Yeah.
That's really good.
A lot of people, they think it's greener outside all the time. It's greener in someone else's yard. And I've went on many yards to help them. And they had the birds they needed right on their own yard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just felt like they needed something from somebody special or something. If the birds they have are healthy, they're free of defects, they represent their breed, they have the right color, conformation type, then chances are, they want to reproduce that, they can do it. They just got to find a mate for it. That might also be on their yard. So,
yeah. And he also says, to answer your question, Kenny, he says, yes, you nailed it. Good. But as long as the two strains you cross are pure, you're always going to get better.
Yeah. The idea is to keep really two really good strains that nick.
Okay. So. Well, we've got people on the East Coast that have to go to work tomorrow, so we should probably hop off and say goodnight.
Okay. So anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah. What are we doing on Friday? Do we know?
Well, I'm working on, let's see, what is it? Let me open it up.
Or should it be a surprise?
Well, I could change my mind. Something I was working on earlier, the complete bird, bridging purity and show in breeding yards. So the idea of, a lot of people think that purity of blood, a pure family is different from a family that is created for the show. And I'm going to show you why they should be the same, that they shouldn't be different. They think show birds and strains are different.
Okay, that sounds good. And that will be at 6:00 California time zone.
On the Friday edition.
On the Friday edition.
Yep.
Of Bred to Perfection Live.
Yep. The Friday edition.
Oh,
okay. What?
By the way, happy Veterans Day to everybody. I believe that is tomorrow.
Is that tomorrow?
So,
okay, cool.
So all of you veterans out there, we appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you for all of you've done, the sacrifices that you've made to this country. You're the best. You're our heroes.
Yep. I ditto. I don't know what to say.
I said it all.
I'm not good at those kind of things. Okay, so thank you for joining us. I really appreciate the questions and the comments. And we'll see you guys Friday.
Like, share, and subscribe, everybody. See you then. Bye.